Okay. So Kristi, we met through Chief about a year ago? More? What do you
I
think?
think, yeah, a year and a half.
And
Yeah.
okay, so you have this really cool business and you do something in consulting that I never knew was actually a thing, which is you started your independent work as a fractional CRO, Chief Revenue Officer.
hmm
Never knew that could be done. I mean, I don't come from that world, but I want to start by you giving kind of the lay of the land of like, what is that? What do you do? What kind of clients do you work with? What problems do you solve for them?
hmm So thank you for having me. Happy to have the conversation. I actually get this a lot because people think chief revenue officers need to be in the office every single day, leading the team, need to be fully committed, immersed into everything. But what we actually find is fractional chief revenue officers, when we come in, we are so focused on the job itself and not everything else that tends to happen in a full time role that we're able to be really efficient and be able to execute. And I think that's what differentiates fractional people from coming in. We have to be very good at managing our time, being very efficient, finding processes that work that we can repeat and redo. I'm going to back up a little bit. I fell in love with the whole concept because when I first started my career, I started as a seller in a small organization doing outbound like most of us started. And then I worked across multiple industries until I really figured out what was my niche. And I fell in love with technology. I always liked newer technologies, figuring out how to get this solution into the market in some way. And then one of the companies I was working at was a security company, and Microsoft acquired them. And I had the wonderful opportunity to get to move into Microsoft, live with them in a few different regions, and then stay there for about 13 years. And so I built up really what I consider my professional capability through Microsoft. They invested so much in talent development and really helping you do stretch assignments so you can get so many different perspectives. I started as an individual manager, and then I did that for a bit, and then I moved into a fully region view role, which was a sales excellence role. It's similar to like a sales COO, where you're looking across all products, across the whole team, and you're helping the sales team be as efficient as possible, finding the processes that work the best. And I realized I had so much fun in that job that it started connecting to personal passion for me. Then, when I left Microsoft, I wanted to go work at a startup and take everything I learned from working in smaller companies in the beginning to working at Microsoft to sales strategy, business development, team leadership, building something that's brand new and just being able to go take that to a startup and build it up. So I worked at a couple of different startups and leading U.S. businesses from other markets and bringing them in here. And then when I left that, I really took some time to say, what do I get the most joy out of doing? And I looked across my career and I said, there's a common theme here. Every single place that I worked at, it was a new product that was launching. Maybe they had some competitors, but it was still new. It was different. It was really, really unique. And that took assessing the market landscape, figuring out the right level conversation, figure out who you're supposed to work to, who's your buyer, what are they trying to get done, how does your product fit in. And even when I was at Microsoft, I led the Office 365 business. I joined in though in that role when it was Office, and then 4 months later it became Office 365. Well, that was a
Interesting.
whole new
Okay.
shift, right? Nobody that was working in the cloud space yet. So the first conversation was, why cloud? Not look at my product, but why cloud? So it was a lot of industry insight.
So this is what, circa 2011?
Oh gosh, yeah.
20,
I was there from 2005 until 2015, 2018. So
okay.
this was 2010. I think
2010.
this
Okay.
was 2010 or 2011. Yeah.
So interestingly, my role before I was an India, for those that are, this is their first time listening, they don't know me. Before I was an independent consultant, in between, I was at BCG, so I was like a management consultant. But between that and becoming an independent, I was at Dell. And I led consumer merchandising. And I led consumer merchandising during the launch of M365 for consumer. And
Oh, okay.
so it was a huge deal because so like I won't go into depth in the revenue model and then the business model behind it, but there's a significant amount of partner marketing that companies like Microsoft and Intel provide OEM PC manufacturers. And when Microsoft shifted from a per license, big revenue per license, you used to buy Office for $150, right? And you'd buy it once. Well, what ended up happening was when you shift to the cloud, now it becomes subscription. And so I was a part of like, what do we put on the boxes? How are we changing our marketing? And then they were changing their funding model for marketing. And it's interesting that all these roads kind of lead back in my conversations I have with folks to like, oh, you were a part of that. That was like such a wild time to be in technology. But you're right. Like it was the time when we were launching so many new products, not just products though, with these completely new business models, which then had implications for the sales model, the marketing motions, the whole shebang was really impacted by those switches.
Yeah. And it was about educating, right? Educating the market, educating the space, helping people understand the concerns about the cloud security and how that's being addressed, right? So even when I was selling security products at Microsoft, I was doing that during Windows 7 launch. So if you remember, it was one of the more challenging times that the organization had around security. But what people didn't realize is Microsoft had 26 different security products at that time. And everybody just thought, oh, there's one or they don't have any. And so I actually spent a lot of my time working with my peers and collaborating a lot on how do people see Microsoft in the security space and getting them to understand that more. And then same thing at Microsoft. Office 365 was the first cloud enterprise version, but Hotmail, which was a cloud service that was running for years, was actually a really big cloud service, right? So we were able to lean on that to say it's not the first time Microsoft ever did it. But it was definitely a transformation. And I think it was one of the bigger transformation most of our clients had to go through. And now you look to see how much the cloud has gotten adopted from that period of time and where businesses are today. So, I think that's what gets me excited about being in the tech space, although I work cross industry, because it's always changing and there's always something new.
So with this great foundation with kind of blue chip technology, and then you went into startups, what kind of companies do you work with now?
So I work with companies that are either stuck in revenue, so it was working and now it's not working. Size company doesn't matter as much because I'm really helping with the specific challenges that people have, cross industry as well. But I would say it's revenue is stalled, or they have had a lot of leadership turnover in sales and they just haven't found the right one. Fractionals are great to jump in for that period of time because we can assess, since we've seen so many different types of businesses, we can assess what works, what doesn't. I recently worked with a very large CPG firm that was rolling out a SaaS technology. And they wanted some expertise externally for the SaaS space. And so I really enjoyed that. And the type of company is somebody that is open to feedback about how to do things probably really different than they are.
How are you finding those target customers? The open to feedback customers is interesting because I don't know if you can figure that out until you're already in. But how are you finding? Actually, let's back up before you answer that.
Yeah.
Key information here. You have been independent now for 2 years and change, so not long in the grand scheme of things. And now you've gone through the evolution of it just being Kristi to Luminate, which is your firm, and Kristi Plus. So I think before we get into who your customers are, let's go through what was that path in a really rapid amount of time and kind of what's the shape of your internal operation now? Are they supporting you? Do you have other CROs with you? Kind of how was that? How's this all transpired?
It's been interesting, and actually I appreciate the guidance that you gave me a year ago when I was looking to figure out how best to scale and grow the company, because it started from our conversation there. So I was Chief Revenue Officer for several companies for about a year and a half, and I loved it. I loved coming in and building a strategy and resetting and coaching the sales team. And I am very hands-on as a fractional chief revenue officer. I get into deal negotiations and, role plays with teams. I really like that part of it. I don't want to just sit at strategy and telling people like how it could be done. But what I was realizing is there's a need for sellers, fractional sellers, AEs, SDRs, people to come in, because one of the things that frustrates companies and especially sales teams so much is how often strategy changes on them. And, a lot of what I work with are startups and small, mid-sized businesses, even though I have that very large CPG, but it's still a smaller sales team, right? It's a segment that gets pulled out to go focus on that. That's kind of my wheelhouse. But there's frustration in, oh, that didn't work. Let's pivot the entire sales team over here. Oh, let's try this. Okay, wait. And the seller has to adapt to that, right? And the seller mindset has to shift, and that gets frustrating over time. So what I've recognized is if I come into an organization and I think there's a different way to sell the product, I don't have to change over the sales team. I can bring my own sales team in with me and they go test it. And then if it works, we get KPIs, we get references, we get this, and then we pass to the sales team. Because the last thing we ever want a team to feel is that I'm bringing in my own people because they're better, they're different. That's not the case. It's bringing in complementary people that can help see if we can go faster, better, different in being able to adopt a different approach. And that's been really interesting.
Okay, this is really interesting. So this is like a sales model pilot in a box.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's a fractional team. That's one of the approaches. I mean, I've had others that are founder-led sales that are saying, you know what, I need to move away from founder-led. I need to go hire all these new salespeople. Instead of doing that, you can hire one person basically for what you're able to get our full team in to come do. So now you get me who'd come in as the sales manager, sales leader, developing that sales strategy, and an AE and a BDR. And my team is quite diverse too. They've done customer success and they've done marketing. They've done a bunch of different things. And we're consistently growing. So I now have 3 people on the team that we've added, so 4 with me. And then in the middle of this year, we have some plans to grow a little bit more, and that may get accelerated. But yeah, it's been very interesting to either become their whole sales team, to complement with their existing sales team, or to do a pilot of an approach. Yeah, those are really the 3 ways that we've brought in.
Okay, now we can say, how did you go from you? How did you get there?
Yeah.
Like, what was the path? Well, obviously, okay. So I always think you have a little bit of an unfair competitive advantage, all right? Which is you're a seller. Obviously, you're going to be better at selling your services than someone who is not a seller.
Yeah.
So let us all learn from you. What did you do? And I'm gonna ask you a lot of questions here because my bet is you're gonna say things like, oh, and then I just did this. I'm gonna be like, oh, whoa. Like, what does that actually mean? So
Yeah.
I'll let you go, and I'm gonna interrupt you.
Yeah, so I'm going to share an approach that I've been doing for probably 20 years now. Anytime I start something new, I start documenting what did I not like about that and what did I like about it. And I look at it to say, if I can start over, how would I have done that differently? From the first time I became a manager, my first one-on-one was not nearly as good as my 30th one-on-one. My first performance review, right? My first time giving feedback. So I actually started cataloging all of the things that I liked that I did in my approach versus the things I didn't like. And I used that because every single day you can start over. Every new client you start over. Every new year you start over. And so you wind up kind of creating this version of yourself that it's been my best way to perform at my best in a more consistent way. But I share that because a lot of what I documented and built out was how to adapt sales to so many different areas. Because I don't take sales for granted, right? To me, I always joke around, I get paid to talk to people all day and have these wonderful conversations. I grew up hearing, oh, wow, sales is so hard. I can't believe you're doing it. It's like, it's never been hard for me. But I do recognize that there are certain things that I do that make it not hard for me. One is mindset. I go into conversations truly trying to learn things and understand and find a connection or a collaboration. I'm not looking to sell to anybody. I'm looking to see, what are you trying to do? Do I know somebody that can do that? Like, I'm more of a connector. And sometimes that connector is a product, right? Sometimes that connector is a service. And so one, I would say, if sales is not your forte and it's not something you have in your background, just have a conversation and ask a lot of questions and see where somebody is struggling and see if you have any ideas how to help them. That's the first shift that I think I did when I was very young, and I didn't realize it until later when I started exploring what makes that unique.
Okay, pause.
Yeah.
Where do you think that came from? Are you you want to be a part of groups? You want to understand people? Like, where is this coming from? Is it coming from inside you naturally?
I think in general, I am a helper, and I want to help people. And so I look at this, and even the reason that I went out on my own I found that I believe I'm really good at this section to this section. And it's in building, fixing, growing, developing, finding a problem, fixing it. I love that. That's the, real, like playing with clay. Like you really just get to mold it all and figure it out. Once a business is up and running and making millions, it's like, great, I love it. I'm so happy for you, but I want to go build again. And what I kept finding is that even at Microsoft, like I would move around, as we all did, to go to something else that I can go fix again. And so now I get to live my life doing the thing that I absolutely love the most. And so it's given me this other element of passion. So I think it stems from me being a natural helper. I also am an achiever, if anybody's done Strength Finders, so I have to get things done. So I take the goal and desire of wanting to do it, but I have to finish it. So I'm very strong at execution. And then I also like to teach. I like to help others learn new skills. I am also really active in the fractional community. And when I first went out on my own, I recognized that this can be a lonely space, going from a paycheck every week to no paycheck, no line of sight to when you're getting your next paycheck because you're starting your business from scratch. And I felt that other people must feel the same way. And so if we brought us all together, we would have a natural element of support. You're not alone. We've done this before. Here's how I approached it. Here's how it's worked. And I get a lot of gratification from people pinging me almost every week. I just closed my first deal because of you. Thank you. We just did this. This community has helped change my life and change my future. And one of my, I hate the word tagline because it sounds so marketing, but like one of my, I guess, main goals is to bring somebody's vision to reality. The dream that a founder has that they truly believe in and are passionate about, and they've thought about this for years and they're finally ready to do it, but they don't know how. I love that space. Like I really like helping them do that. So yeah, I think it comes from wanting to help, and then I'm also just a heavy process person. So sales is art and science. I do the art. I think I'm good at the art, but I love process because I like to find efficiency. And I think all process is a set of best practices that work really well that help more people do better.
Yeah, those are like this. I think people that I've seen that are really successful and kind of rising through the ranks in sales are the people that have both of the qualities you're talking about. They naturally are approaching the conversations with curiosity and as how do we get out of, like, what are we going to do from this versus I need to get this thing out of it. The other thing is they can execute. And that is like, I think if I've seen different like revenue leaders, the people that can execute and do that are like, sky's the freaking limit. I want to give you a little bit of credit here because I don't know if you're actually giving yourself enough. So you started a group within Chief, which is how we met, but it's kind of a subgroup for fractional women considering fractional roles or who are in fractional roles. How many women are in the group now? Do you know?
Almost 400. In the
Almost
last
400.
month, 75 people joined. So it's going to grow quite quickly from here, I think, as well.
I think when I found out about it, which now was like 18 months ago, maybe a little less than 18 months ago, it was about 80 people. So it's huge. And I know that we have an incredibly active WhatsApp chat. And most of the things that are coming through the WhatsApp are people who are clearly like in the first 12 months of this or who are just curious and thinking, is this really what I want to do in that, in my kind of end of my second or beginning of my third career act. It's really great. You do so much. Like I one time, I'll say this, and I'm sure some of them listen to you. I texted you and I was like, have you ever thought about asking people to pay for this? Like, and we had a conversation about it, and you basically were like, I don't care. Like, I just like the community aspect of it, and that enough is a reward, which is amazing. I think you've done so many good things for all the folks in that group. So
thank you.
It's really kind of you.
I really enjoy bringing people together. And I think I've naturally always been a connector without realizing it. And going back to sales, again, connecting is just, oh, you got that? I know this person. I know this. I have this product. I have this. But I really, really like having the communities. And I have a few. And even like a local group, we get together once a month and we have dinners in our local community. And it's the thing that I treasure the most. I mean, I block these dates out. I hold them to the best of my ability because it's just such a wonderful gift to get to meet new people and hear new things. And and help wherever you can.
Yeah.
But it's been fun.
That's amazing. All right. So we were going through the arc of Luminate. So it starts with Kristi.
Yes.
We know we're going to get to Kristi +3 and plus. How did it go from Kristi to +1? Because I think this is actually the hardest jump.
Yeah, it is. It is, because I had to think, who was the first person that I needed to bring in? Is it a seller? Is it administrative support? Where was I spending my time? And that's where, when you and I spoke, you shared this framework with me, which was super helpful to say, like, what can I do that only I can do? What takes a lot of my time that's important that I can delegate? What takes a lot of my time that's not important that I can just get rid of, right? And it's just that element of focus, because the reality is we're in this every single day, and it's helpful to lift ourselves out of it too, to get a different perspective.
Yeah.
That's what I like about the community, is they lift me up and out, right? And so when I first started doing it, I did hire a like administrative agency, one of the fractional ones, but I never had enough to delegate to them, and I just felt like I spent money for really not a lot back, but it wasn't on them. It was on me. I didn't really know how to delegate out my job, because what I felt heavily is I'm talking to all these people that are interested in me coming in to help them build a better sales strategy because of my background. So what can I really offset to somebody? That I just really had them researching things like, what type of technology should I be using as a fractional? And so administrative wasn't my biggest pain. What happened, though, is an individual that I used to work with, so he worked for me years ago, and I think he was phenomenal. He was in between jobs, and I said, why don't you come in and work with me for a bit? So he was my first one. He was director of sales. He had sales leadership experience, but also full cycle sales, and he was very open to doing outbound, even cold calling. Like, I love that. I love when there is a person who is so happy to do everything from cold calling to managing people, right?
Okay, time out.
Yeah.
There are people in this, gut check this. There are people in this world who like doing cold calling. This is freaking amazing. Okay, I need to,
I was one of them. I was one of them. We would have cold calling blitz. It's just another way to talk to somebody. And interestingly enough, I don't know the stats in the last 6 months, because with sales, every single model changes, right? But when we were doing this, cold calling was still our number one driver of inbound opportunities.
For what kind of deals?
Opportunities that we would bring in. What's that?
What kind of deals? I mean, you're not selling, like, I know I get the cold calls from the roofers. I know you're not selling roofing services. Okay, so like
technology. So most of that was SaaS tech. So I've been heavily in the tech SaaS space for most of my career, but security software, financial software. It's not B2C. A majority of what we do is B2B, and 6-figure deals. With some Fortune 50 companies. Started with a cold call.
I got to get a cold caller. Okay.
Yeah, I have.
All right. So you found so there was a trusted person who had a skill that was truly complementary to yours in terms of they could replicate some of the things that you thought, you only could do, but they could expand the ones that really needed to scale. The calling, the outbound, the time intensive work.
And it wasn't necessarily overlapping with what I did. It was creating a new role. And so then we started talking about, well, what could this concept be? Because now I can come in, and I offered it at no additional cost to my existing clients, because I wanted to test this model. I know. But it did. Oh yeah, no, it's changed now. But I wanted to test it. I wanted to say, is this something that I can do? Can I give up some of my ownership of this, like many founders have a problem doing, right? We all know that. Can I give up my ownership of my brand, my identity, my network to somebody else to help to go cultivate that? And it worked beautifully. We worked out some kinks, right? It was more on me. And when I was a manager, don't believe I was ever a micromanager. That's not my style. However, this is my own business. This is different.
It's your own client.
If I don't make any money, I can't pay the mortgage. It's that serious now, where it's really different than I'm going to get a paycheck either way. So the gravity of it was stronger. But he did an amazing job. We had a great relationship. Things started really building. And then he got a full-time job, which I knew was always his plan. And then I brought 2 more people on that used to work for me. So that's been my model, is they're all trusted people that have worked for me or with me at some period of time. And then a month ago, I brought somebody else in. And they are what I think the best of the people that I've worked with. So I have trust in letting them go out and run. One of the women on my team, she's a master at sales enablement, documents the process out, but really good at outreach and is constantly researching and doing podcasts and listening to all these things about how you can do outbound now. Because what worked 3 months ago doesn't work today. What worked 6 months ago, like it's always evolving and you need somebody to stay on top of it. That's the reason that I don't love people that do full cycle sales without support from an outbound person, because you cannot be a master of every single part of a sales cycle. They're so different.
Yeah, I see similar things in marketing too, where it's like if you're not the person that's focused on LinkedIn, like it's radically different than it was 6 months ago, and it's always changing, which is really different than like finance.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Very different.
Yep.
Okay, so this is interesting because I feel like I started the same way. It's almost, I've been doing this now 11 years. And so and I'm not going to talk about the internal Keenan Reed people, but like our consultants, the first people I brought on, and really for the first few years, were 100% people I know that either I had worked with or who a client had worked with and brought to me to staff. And that was the model for, oh my gosh, really about 5 years, until I figured out how can we expand. I had to expand, right? Because this is happening to you right now. It sounds like it's like
Right.
you've gotten to the point where like I can't really rely only on my network because I just have too much work and I've got to staff it. So I'm going to have to get over this hump somehow. I will tell you what's worked for me is to kind of think about this as concentric circles. And if the first was the first piece, like people you knew or they knew, the next is what are the people in the networks that I am in who have the similar, what are the patterns in schools and experiences and life choices, right? And try and replicate those people. Which is why, like when I talk about like we really do like 80% now, but 80% is ex-MBB people that we staff because they got the same training, they have the same client experiences. Like it's just so much easier when I see that experience. And so, in some cases I feel like I'm lucky because those networks are so strong that it's easy to kind of tap into them. But that's great. Yeah. So you're expanding. Okay. So back up.
Just on that, I feel the same way though. Like when I bring in people that I've worked with, they have knowledge of Challenger sales training or medic or all the trainings that we've gone through together. And so they have the selling style that I feel like really is the one that resonates a lot and works really well. So we're able to typically come in and test that out with similar approaches from a sales methodology perspective.
Yeah, you're getting scale out of that experience because you're not having to spend the time on the ramp up.
Right.
Yeah, it's always the case with me.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So you added the salespeople. Okay, so question for you. When you started adding the scale in these kind of seller-like roles, were you also adding admin help? Because now you've got multiple clients, invoicing, accounting, payroll, like how were you, and you're still doing work too. How are you handling the inside of the house?
I'm still managing that myself. I do have somebody that works on payroll and taxes and, I have somebody that's doing that, but I don't find that heavy. I think I've automated a lot of those processes already just with technology and different things. So I have one day a month that I do all of my invoices. Everybody gets invoiced on the same day, regardless of when they pay.
I do my own invoicing. Okay.
Yeah, I do.
Yes, I did that until 2 years ago.
It's easy. I have templates. I have things built. It takes me 15, 20 minutes to do quite a few invoices. Like it's down to a science now. And I'd rather still own that. There's just something about it, making sure that it's billing. Because also, a lot of times the way it works with my clients, we have a few different product offerings. So I do advisory, I do fractional CRO where I come in and manage the team, the process. Like I'm fully embedded into the business, feels more like an employee. Then I also do project-based consulting. This is typically somebody wants a sales process to be rebuilt and has a start date and end date, and it's kind of focused on that. I also have an assessment for people who feel like something's wrong with their business, but they don't know what, they don't know what they need. I tend to start with the assessment and then come in and say, here's what you could do. And then I have the fractional team. So all of those things kind of come in play. And so when I'm working with clients to figure out exactly what they need, they typically start with one thing and then move to the next. So my contracts are often getting updated and my invoices are often getting updated. So I'm very fortunate that almost every person actually that I've worked with wants to extend to something else and multiple times extend. And I think that's a really good business model too. I think sometimes people take on really big projects and then they get in and they're like, oh my goodness, this is so much bigger than I ever thought it was going to be. And now I'm under. I'd rather move slow. I believe that our capabilities should allow us to extend. I don't feel the need to lock anybody into this contract that you can't get out of. You like working with us, you're going to see impact typically in the first 90 days. You should start seeing an impact of revenue or something working. And if not, then, I don't want to force you to stay with us just like an employee, but, thankfully I haven't had that situation. But because of that, I feel more comfortable managing the invoices myself, just because of that evolution, and each month something's changing. So my admin stuff is not that heavy. There are definitely tools out there that I'm using. I'd say presentation building, that one takes a lot of time, but my team supports some of that. There's also AI stuff that I've been playing around with around those things.
Okay, time out on that. Did you find anything that works? Because I can't. God knows I've tried.
Yeah, not all the way. There's nothing that's my silver bullet go-to, but I do like Beautiful.ai. I've played with Gamma. I don't know that it's my favorite, but I think I need to play around with it more. But what I like about Beautiful AI, my weakness is more text on a slide than images, and I want more images than text. So I know that naturally about me. I'm a detail-oriented person, so I tend to write in text and then switch to an infographic. PowerPoint gets me pretty far, but Beautiful AI actually does a nice job of organizing it in a better visual way and more dynamic than what I'm used to. So I think it also depends, recognize what you're weak in PowerPoint building. Because for me, it's not the structure. It's not condensing 20 slides down to 2. I am concise with the slides. I don't like too many slides, but I do think in pictures, but still I write it in text and then they have to convert it for me. And I find that helpful.
Yeah, I can't find it. I'll try Beautiful. I can't find anything that works. But I think in pictures, I don't know. And I think the other problem is I'm just so fast in PowerPoint. I'm such an amazing PowerPoint person. I'm so proud of this. It's just a natural byproduct of my career that it's really, really hard for me to find anything that even saves 5 minutes, because I'm like, this is shit. I could have just done this myself in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And then I get antsy. And anyway.
And maybe that area of efficiency is completely different for you. For me, the same thing, PowerPoint. Being a Microsoftie for that long, I love my PowerPoint. And so, I get pretty far in it. It's just there's certain things that sometimes I want another look. What else could you make it look like? And I think that's kind of fun, too, of playing around with visualizations. Canva's the other tool that I like a lot in just being able to build things in my branding, one-pagers. Even though we don't really use business cards that much, I did just recently make business cards and I can shuffle around my branding, and that was fast. That was easy to do. Yeah, but I'm constantly looking for new tech. Actually, it's something we really like offering our clients. So each week, my team and I come together and we identify new technology that we can think is going to help, from sales, from marketing to outbound to email generation to whatever it may be. We actually just had an offsite this week, and that was a big topic. We spent about an hour going through all the tools we researched to see what we would like to recommend to our clients. Awesome. Everything from CRM systems, because depending on how big your company is, you might not need a big CRM yet.
Yeah, no, right? We don't. I was doing it in Asana. I'm going to switch to Pipedrive.
Pipedrive's good. Anyway, there's a couple other. I'll fill you in on a couple other ones to use that I've been playing around with that are a little less known, but they have a lot of integrations and automations, and there's some cool stuff.
Cool. I'm looking at my notes here because I was going to keep going on this, about AI agents. I have a friend who's an advisor to a startup out of Amsterdam. It's called ape.ai, and they are targeting kind of small professional, either individual or small professional development firms with a really, really easy drag and drop AI agent creator. And so I I love what they're doing. I'm trying to learn more about it. I have concerns about security with using it for client use, but for our own admin, my team has been hating me the last 2 weeks. I've been like, why do I need you to do that when we can just build an agent? And they're like looking at me like, who's gonna build it, Lauren? Like, we don't know. You sure as hell don't know. And I'm like, just go and do it. Yeah, Regina wants to kill me about that stuff. But I do think in the next year, like, we're gonna figure that. As soon as somebody can make it easy, God, I'll go nuts on it. Okay. So
AI is getting easier and easier and easier to use. But the risk is, the important thing is always to anonymize data. And
Yes.
not everybody always thinks about doing that. I coach my teams on it. But even like, I love ChatGPT. I call him Fred. I don't know why, Fred, but I decided to call him. It's just, I can't say that every single time. So whenever I leverage Fred, I'm always anonymizing everything, but I use that for so many things throughout the day, because my biggest belief is I know I have a lot of ideas around many things. Ideation is my other. So I'm a problem solver. I come up with ideas about how to solve things, but I always want to hear, is there something else I'm not thinking of?
Yeah.
And so I'll just like run it in and say, hey, here's the problem. Here's what I'm thinking. What else would you do? Right? You're an master in this. What would you do?
Are you guys, so we run on Outlook, obviously, since, we like to pay mom. But because of our Microsoft connection, like the way our work does with Microsoft, we have vendor Microsoft email addresses. And so we get the latest Copilot. And I will tell you, so I actually bought Copilot licenses for all of us internally for one feature, which was meeting summarization and action taking.
Yes.
I cannot say that Fred is better at writing stuff than Copilot, but the amount of time saved, and it's not time saved in going back and writing actions. It is time saved in my team capturing the actions and not forgetting I said something, or recording the client call and not forgetting two things, and then taking that and getting it done just faster. And so it's just pushing everything through. It was, in my opinion, the licenses are not cheap. It was, I think, $30 a user a month. Which is kind of expensive if you compare that to other licenses that we pay for by user. But are we getting probably $1,000 of value out of that every month? Thousands, easily.
Your
I think
ROI
that's
is
awesome.
there. Yeah, I used it too. So I had a client that the same thing. When I'm working with clients, I'm on their email. So most of my clients are Microsoft shops, and so they're using Copilot. I loved it. I also liked the calendar, like take an email thread and convert it to a meeting. So if you don't use that, that's really great, because it'll summarize and gives you an agenda and summarize for everybody the entire email thread. That is such a time saver. I always use that feature in Outlook because I liked it when I'm in a meeting, in an email thread. It's like, hey, we should talk about this. Calendar invite, finds the time, sets it up. It's perfect. But now it adds in the meeting summary.
Okay,
Very
all my
smart.
teams are going to be doing that tomorrow. Our clients aren't doing that to us. That's
No,
interesting.
I mean, there's so many new efficiencies, but that's also, bringing in outside perspective brings in new technology, brings in new ideas, right? Same thing that you offer to your clients. And I think that's something that's been really exciting, is we specifically have time dedicated every single week to go see what's new, what's out there, and what else could we be recommending to our clients. And each person on my team has a specific domain of what they research, so that they have the latest information to bring in.
Yeah,
and
it's
that's
like
been really cool.
an in-house innovation function, just at a small scale. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, I do want to go back to your pipeline analysis engagement, though. It's something that I've been, on the Keenan Reed side, I've been tossing around this idea of like a starter pack. Because I think when I was doing a win-loss, and I was like, well, when I lose deals, it's because people don't understand the value. Right? It's like I throw out a number, we bill fixed cost per month, they look at that number and they're judging that versus, we win when they're judging it against a consulting firm, we lose when they're judging it against like a role augmentation vendor, right? Like someone that just a program manager, which is not what we do. And I thought, okay, is there a way to create a starter pack that we can repeat, we can have like artifacts around, and that I can get us in and out and have somebody reach an outcome that's really painful for them in like 14 work days. So then I went and I was researching for this conversation. I was like, well, of course she's already doing it. Like, smarty girl's one step ahead of me. So tell me about what you're doing there. And I want to know, is it working?
So I believe strongly in a land and expand approach because, it's hard when you don't know somebody and you want to bring them into your business and you're going to trust them to help you turn around. But if you get to work with them for 2 weeks, a month, all of a sudden it's like, oh, I get this person. Okay, this is exactly who I need to bring in. So I have a couple of different starter options. So one of them is the pipeline analysis. So if anybody is not really sure what's happening with their business of why it's not working, I'll come in to do pipeline analysis, which is typically 1 hour long call where we go through and we look at the pipeline together. And I need a rep to be able to answer some questions, but I'll actually do a pipeline review conversation. And it is so interesting how many things I can pick up that are not working within the sales process just by having that conversation.
Oh yeah, because you know the patterns.
Yeah, and it really is a set of patterns. Like there's a playbook that is incredibly repeatable for so many different size businesses. I ran it at one startup and we grew the business amazingly. I ran it at the next startup and same thing. Within 3 to 6 months, the business is already on a turnaround because there's certain things that consistently keep happening. And they could be different things in each company, but they're always like one of these 20 things. And so in running that pipeline analysis, I can typically figure out what's happening and why. And I test it. I'm like, so this is kind of what I'm thinking. Are you experiencing this? What about this? How'd you handle that? And again, I ask 1,000 questions. Everybody that knows me, anytime they ask me a question, I typically ask them a question back to make sure I fully understand it. So I will always ask questions. So that's one, and that's been really helpful. I do that also with fractional people. Because going to what you said before, fractional people, a lot of them don't start from sales.
Oh yeah,
and the ones that don't, right? And they don't know how to take a conversation and turn it into a deal, not by pushing, right? Like you can't push. People don't want to be pushed. If I'm going to be pushed, like when I go to a retail store, how can I help you? How can I help you? It's like, please, I will let you know. Nobody likes that. People don't want to be sold to, but people want to buy. And so it does come down to like truly understanding what they're trying to do and help them. So I do a lot of coaching for fractional people to help. I actually have a monetized package for that as well that kind of does everything within 90 days, helps them get to selling their products. But with that being said, there's a lot of need for understanding around that space that I think an outside person can help with. So that's the pipeline analysis piece. The other piece, though, is assessments. So instead of locking into a big, long contract, we'll come in and we'll do an assessment that'll take 30 to 60 days. And we're just going to tell you what we see. And it's actually we've added a lot of math behind this. There's a lot to it. It's a 147-point inspection. So we look at 147 different things within a business. We're not solving it. We're looking at it. And we're going to give you a measurement on where you stack up in what it should be. Think about a maturity model, right? And so it kind of then goes into maturity model. So we have that. That's a really nice way for companies to get involved and get started there. And then the last piece is I'm working on some workshops that will be live in the next couple months probably. And the workshops will be on different things where people can jump in and just learn that piece. It would be customized specifically to their business. And then I'm partnering with somebody else on doing an online course. And so there's a few things in the works. But yeah, so stay tuned. We expect 2025 to be a really busy year. I'm very excited about it. We've had a very fortunate run in starting the business and being able to take on amazing clients and seeing transformations happening with them. And, especially my founder-leds, I think I get a lot of joy out of like somebody having this vision and then all of a sudden they start making money and it gets to this place of like, oh my God, it's working. How incredible. So that's what we've been doing and what we're going to be working on. But I'm a big fan of starting with something small just to get in the doors. It's an interview for both of you.
Yeah.
Right. You get to see, do I want to work with them? Do they want to work with me? Do we have the right fit here?
Yeah. We've got a couple things we've done so many times that one of them we're now doing, I am packaging it as we're doing the engagement. And then there's another one I think that we can do too. Actually, I should tell you about it because it could kind of be complimentary. But this is great. So where can people find you? I know you're in many places.
Yes, I am. I wonder if this will work. Let's try something live in real time. So my company name is Luminate Consulting Services. Our website is Luminate Consulting Services. And this is my LinkedIn QR code.
Nice.
So I'm hoping that works. Yeah, it's actually pretty cool. I put it into a widget, so it's always on my phone, so I can kind of just.
Yeah, I have mine as in my Apple Wallet.
Oh, clever.
Same thing though. It's because the QR code was better. Okay, so I know Kristi Gaudioso. She's on LinkedIn, luminateconsultingservices.com. And then she's super. If you're in chief, come to the dark side with us fractionals.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's fun. Well, thank you for joining me. And that's it.
Thank you. Love the conversation.